All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are about to begin our meeting, but before we do, I am going to stand for a moment of silence and I will follow that with a pledge of allegiance to our flag. If any of you are interested in joining me, you're certainly welcome to do so. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we will go ahead and call to order the October 18th Sumner County School Board meeting. Mr. Johnson, do you have the roll? For the record, we'll show all board members present. Next item on our agenda is adoption of consent agenda. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Ms. Cox. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Brewer. Ms. Silkwood.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to remove item B. I had some questions about the funding source for, I'm sorry, not completely item B, but if you'll click on that, underneath the item under salary supplements is some funding for some iPads, and I had some questions about the funding source for that, and we've been unable to get in touch with Ms. Dursky and clear that up, so I'd like to just remove that item, defer that, if that's possible.
Just defer it.
Right,
Okay.
until Dr. Phillips has an opportunity to,
All right.
Figure out the funding
without
source.
objection, unless we have a county commissioner willing to step up and pay for those, we're going to take that off for a month. I can't help it. We're going to take that off for a month. Are there any other changes to the consent agenda? All right, seeing none, all in favor of approving the consent agenda signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Next is adoption of the regular agenda. Is there a motion? Motion by Mr. Gregory, a second. Second by Mr. Duncan. Any changes to the regular agenda? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Show the regular agenda has been adopted. Next is adoption of our minutes from the September 20th school board meeting. Is there a motion? Motion by Mr. Brown. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Cox. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? So we've adopted the minutes. Next is recognition and hearing of delegations. We have a presentation regarding Union University Leadership Academies. I'm going to assume this is Dr. Lee. Dr. Lee, if you would, please go to the podium, hit that big silver button in the middle of the microphone base. Give us your name and address, and you'll have 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chairman Long. My name is Charles Lee. I live at 140 River Chase in Hendersonville, Tennessee, and work with Union University in Hendersonville. First of all, I want to thank all of you for the great service that you provide to our schools and to our community. Being a member of a school board, I think, is one of the most challenging jobs that's available in a community, and I commend you for the work that you do. And I know it's been at times a trying year for you last year. Well, you know, they say sometimes that the best things in life are free. And tonight, I'm here to propose the creation of a leadership academy that would partner Sumner County Schools and Union University, becoming yet another example of what the very best school systems are doing all across this nation. I think you understand as well as I the challenges that educational leaders face today. They're more complex than they have ever been. And the challenges year to year continue to grow. It is our hope that through the creation of a leadership academy in Sumner County, we can begin to improve the skills of our current administrators, and we can create a pathway for promotion of other teachers and emerging leaders to become very skilled leaders as well. The Leadership Academy, as proposed before you tonight, consists of two different institutes. One would be an institute for administrators. The other would be an institute for teachers, because teachers are leaders as well as administrators being leaders. Initially, in our pilot year of operation under the Leadership Academy, we would pilot the Leadership Institute for Administrators, one particular session for emerging leaders, the second session for existing leaders. Selection of the participants of that particular program would be upon the recommendation of the school system. The sessions of the academy themselves would be held at Union's new campus that's being developed at 205 Indian Lake Boulevard in Hendersonville. And there would be 5 full-day sessions focusing on what we believe to be the 5 most crucial issues that leaders face today. The first is leadership. Leadership in terms of how to manage change, and then how to manage resistance to that change. Leadership in terms of creating vision and mission and goals for their particular school. Leadership in terms of creating their own leadership framework that is unique to their particular situation. And leadership in terms of the ISLIC standards, which are nationally recognized standards as well as state recognized standards for excellence in leadership. Another session would focus on the learning environment. How do we create high expectations for our learners? How do we create a unique school culture for learning? How do we avoid isolation that often occurs in a particular school or in a classroom? And who are the stakeholders in those learning environments? And how do we involve all of those stakeholders to improve learning? The third particular session we would deal with concerns curriculum. Defining, first of all, what is the curriculum? What are 7 principal expectations that a curriculum leader should have from the teachers in their schools? What are the types of curriculum that have to be dealt with? What about basic literacy? And how do you focus for curriculum improvement? The 4th day-long session would look at assessment, certainly something we're interested in Tennessee and in Sumner County. What are the key components of assessment? How do we gather, and then how do we use data for good decision making? How do we do simple supervision through walk-through learning? And of course, how do we deal with the new TAP model of evaluation that has been adopted in the state of Tennessee? The final day of the Institute would be focusing on instruction. What's the best lesson design for the grade that you're teaching? How do we to create professional development opportunities within our schools to address particular issues that we have in our schools? How should lessons flow from one to another and connect between grades? And then, of course, how do we develop proper rigor, relevance, and relationships in terms of our instructional program? We believe that through this particular program, addressing these 5 issues through what we call a problem-based learning model, that we will create a very unique leadership, as I said, joining the very best school systems in our state. Right now, leadership academies exist in selected counties in East Tennessee that have been organized by the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. Metro Nashville works with Vanderbilt in a leadership academy, and Sumner County would be joining those select and elect school systems that have their own leadership academy. Our concept behind the academy has been discussed fully with members of the Sumner County School leadership. In fact, we began discussions of the academy while Mr. Bills was the director of schools and have continued them enthusiastically with Dr. Phillips and Dr. Ungreat. We believe that through the creation of this academy, we will create the very best leaders and therefore have the very best schools anywhere in the state and among the best in the southeastern United States. The very best part of this program is if a participant continues through the program, through the 5 sessions, if that individual wants to go ahead and pursue an advanced degree, Union will award 3 hours of graduate level credit equivalent to $1,500 for them as a graduate of the Leadership Institute. Individuals will have no expenses to participate, and there will be no expense to the school system as well. It is our intention to fund it through the university will fund approximately half of the cost. The other half of the cost, should you adopt it, it will be our challenge to go out and to raise the remainder of the funds for this. We believe the cost of this program will be approximately $70,000, and that is just the direct cost for the Institute, absolutely no cost for the things that Union provides or our faculty participation in the program. We're excited about this opportunity to partner with Sumner County Schools and the opportunity to create a very unique professional development pathway for the employees of this system. So, Dr. Phillips, Chairman Long, that is our proposal.
Dr. Lee, thank you. Dr. Phillips, do you have anything?
I do. I want to thank Dr. Lee for being here. I know he and I, as well as Dr. Ungrit, have worked on this project since almost pretty close to day one of my arrival in town.
Actually, the first time I saw Dr. Phillips, I said, "Do I have a deal for you?" You know.
And so we wanted to have Dr. Lee here this evening because we are getting, I think, kind of down into the final stages, and we're really not here for approval. This is an internal mechanism that we'll do just like we do PD across our system. But we kind of wanted people to understand where we were headed. These are the types of things that we all talked about when I interviewed in April. This builds capacity within your staff. I know that in the midst of all the other things we've dealt with since June, we actually have had other things that we've worked on that are educational based, in building capacity within our own staff, having an opportunity to partner with a higher ed provider here in our local community. Those are win-win opportunities that we need to take advantage of this and also build to try to find other ways to do this throughout our system in the community. So I was just really excited about it. I thought you all would be excited about it, and it's really a positive thing. And I thank Dr. Lee for coming and look forward to this being a huge success and many others with Union.
Thank you, Dr. Lee.
Thank you.
Unless any board members have any questions. Oh, Ms. Scott?
I just had one question. First of all, I want to thank Dr. Lee and the university. We're just thrilled about the partnership that we've been able to enjoy with university, and I know that this will be a great asset to our school system. How many will we be able to enroll in the pilot program? That was my first question.
It's a great question.
We have 2,100 teachers, so 2,000 maybe.
I wish we could do that. We're looking at a group no larger than 20 emerging leaders, 20 existing leaders. So it would be a total of 40.
All right. Any other board members? Seeing none. Dr. Lee, thank you. Great presentation. And I too reflect Ms. Cox's comments. Thank you. All right. Next item on our agenda is unfinished business. Item A, discussion and or action regarding election commission request for March the 6th. And Mr. Johnson or Dr. Phillips, do you want to explain this to us?
I'll try to address this. Ms. Brown is out this evening. She was ill today, and so we all hope that she gets to feeling better. So I'm going to attempt to explain to you what we are trying to do. And I know under the message on your board docs, you have it, but we have a request from the Election Commission to change a school day. And so we are recommending that February the 7th become a regular instructional day. Currently, it is a stockpile day, number one, and is to be used for parent conferences. I am recommending that Tuesday, March the 6th, which is actually Election Day, become stockpile day one and be used for parent conferences on the campuses. March 7th and March 8th will be regular instructional days, and that gives a little bit cleaner ending to the 9-week grading period. Spring break begins on March the 9th. The spring break week is a little difficult because of the way the election falls. So we go to school, we don't go to school, we come back to school, then we don't go to school. So it's really impossible to work it where it's absolutely perfect. But I think, from my understanding, we have worked with the Election Commission in the past. I think it's a good thing. I've said this in previous districts. I do believe it's a good thing that our schools are used as polling places. There are a lot of advantages to that. Obviously, trying to have school at the same time, there are some distinct disadvantages to that. We do believe we'll be able to make that adjustment as we've recommended. And if parents are having parent conference and they're bringing their child or they're coming to school, quite possibly that might, I don't know, it might increase the participation in voting that day too. I don't know. But either way, we'd like for you to approve it. We've looked at it several different ways. And to work with the Election Commission, we believe this is the best way.
All right, thank you, Dr. Phillips. Motion by Mr. Wise, thank you. Second by Ms. Cox. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? We show that passes. Next item on our agenda is item B under unfinished business, discussion and/or action regarding employee retirement.
I know that we had a brief conversation, no action, I think at the past meeting about the retiree situation for this year. And I think all collectively knew that we were going to offer the same retirement benefits for retirees that retire prior to June 30 of 2012, this school year. We're going to offer them the same thing that we had offered the previous 2 years. And so I think we had a conversation about that when I went back and I talked with Sean and Mary Ann. Mary Ann said we really needed to have that pass officially at the board table, at the board level, just for the record. And so what we have attached here to board docs is from Mr. Curtis, working from the previous retirement package that's been offered to school system retirees the past 2 years. Is that right, Mr. Curtis? The past 2 years, so it's exactly the same. We did put in there a date, Mr. Curtis, of February. What is it? End of February? End of February for them to let us know if they're planning to take retirement. That's for a couple of reasons. The most important one, it certainly helps us as we start having budget discussions in March and April. We already know kind of who we're going to have in regard to the number of employees that are going to seek retirement. And so it just helps us with planning. And certainly I think employees that have been contemplating retirement probably will be able to make a decision by the end of February.
All right, thank you, Dr. Phillips. Is there a motion? Motion by Mr. Brewer. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Duncan. Any discussion?
Yes,
Edward?
Mr. Long. As I was reading this last evening, there's one part of it that I would like to get an amendment on, and I talked to Ms. Dursky actually on my way to the meeting today, and her answer was that the financial risk is very small, and that part of it is on the very last of the first page about the eligible employees will receive one year coverage for each 3 years worked in Sumner County. and maximum of 10 years, eligible Medicare, which one comes first. As I thought about this, I thought, and I hope what I'm going to mention never happens. And it probably will be very minimum, if any. If someone retires on their own will, stay exactly the way it is. But during, because of our circumstances, where there may have to be, I hope not, pray that it won't be, that, we have uh, some forced type retirements, that we amend this, that if it's a forced type of retirement, because of the budget shortfalls, then that individual would receive insurance until they were able to receive Medicare. Now, what it is, there's a little, it's only people, employees, excuse me, only the ones who, and they can't help what year they were born, who started to work at a very early age, who have met all the criteria, probably wouldn't even be teachers. It would probably be more classified. Started working, and they meet all the criteria, 30 years plus and all this. But at the same time, they were forced to retire, and then they did not have insurance until they were able to qualify for Medicare. And the next thing is, some of us know that the older we get, sometimes it's more difficult, almost impossible, to get insurance. That's my part. Hopefully it would never happen, but I think that we need to have a safety net there for employees if that ever did happen, that they'd have a safety net of that benefit for a year or so.
All right, I see Mr. Hill. Before I go there, Mr. Gregory, I need to get a clearly worded motion in a second
Okay.
so we can discuss that.
Okay, the amendment was for employees who had forced retirement because of budget shortfalls, that they would receive insurance until they were able to receive Medicare.
All right, there's a motion. Is there a second to that motion?
I second it.
Second by Mr. Brown. All right, Mr. Hill.
Couple of questions, if I could, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Phillips, a new teacher out of college will come to work at what age? Typically,
22, probably.
if they work 30 years, which is
52.
long service, they're 52. And if we have 10 years, and I'm sure there's been some thought put in this, and that's what I'm trying to get at, is what I thought. They're eligible for insurance for 10 years. That puts them at age 62. Medicare doesn't kick in to age 65. Is there, and I know this is the same thing we've had in the past, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but I'm trying to get to some reasoning behind why that wouldn't be 13-year maximum, because that would tell me that somebody could come to work right out of college, they could work their 30 years, and they would receive insurance, whatever. I mean, if we're paying 50%, 40%, or whatever, I think it's going along the same lines Mr. Gregory was. Why would we stop insurance 3 years before they're eligible for Medicare? Because they probably, unless they're working somewhere, they're probably not going to have insurance for those 3 years.
Well, Dr. Phillips, before you respond to that, we also have non-certified employees who could start to work here at age 18 when they graduate, work 30 years, be 48, and now you're looking at, what, 17 years? So, Dr. Phillips?
Yeah, I think that was my first comment would be, I think, like Mr. Gregory mentioned, the 10-year cap for individuals that possibly were classified and started at 18 or 19 or whatever, you have a longer window to pay at the end. I really can't answer for why the 10 years is in there. And I won't try to defend that it makes sense. We were just using exactly what we had had the previous 2 years, and certainly would be, it's obviously a board decision to amend it or to change it, and we'll be happy to do so. You know, I think that there probably is a gap there between the 30-year employee and their 10 years of coverage and then the eligibility for Medicare. So, you know, in most instances, it probably is 3 years, 4 years. Some, it could be up to 7 additional beyond what we're doing now.
All right,
I'll come back to that,
Dr. Hale.
Mr. Chairman. And, I like it. Just
Dr.
keep
Phillips,
going.
Mr. Hale.
And I'm okay with this. I mean, I know you need to get something passed, and I'm fine with that, but I would like to bring this up at a study session, because I'd like to see if we could put some thought into, let's say it's revenue neutral or expense neutral. Would our employees be better served by saying it's 65%, but we're gonna cover it for 13 years, than 70% for 10 years? I think it's just a discussion maybe we ought to have at some point in the future. I'm okay with approving this tonight, but I'd like to get on study session, because I think it probably does need to put some thought into it. I know this is what we've had. I'm perfectly comfortable passing it like it is tonight, but if we do, I'd like to address it and take a look at that, because I go along with Mr. Gregory. I see where he's going with that. Somebody's in forced retirement, you don't want to leave them out for a year. But I mean, if you take, and I don't know how typical this is, but you know, if and when, you know, primary mission is education. If we take a teacher at 22, they work 30 years, they put in their 30 years, they retire at 52. We don't want to leave them at 62 with no insurance. And so I think that's a discussion maybe somebody ought to have. I'm not smart enough to know what the answer is, just dumb enough to ask the question.
All right, Mr. Brown.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question about that too as we talk. And I did second this motion, but we have a little thing to deal with here, I think, like the federal government. Who in this world knows what the year will be in 30 years that federal government insurance programs may take effect? They may raise a thing to 75 years by then. I think we need to go back to study session probably and talk about this some more.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Mr. Wise and then Mr. Daniels.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would request that when we take it to the study session, that we see in writing everything that is involved here, because I have questions. This, if you read it strictly by what is said, this is talking about the employee. What about the families who currently are enrolled in the same insurance plan as the employee? I've had teachers to call me, teachers outside of my district to call me. I had one gentleman call me today and said, my wife is 42 and he is considering retiring. His children are, best I recall, 14 and 12, something like that. So they've got a while. This talks about the employee. What about the family of the employees? It's not spelled out here. I would like to see something. I don't want anything left in the gray area. I'd like to see it all spelled out exact, so that when I talk with him tomorrow, I've got to tell him there's a lot in the gray area, but I think it is this way and that way. Well, if it doesn't turn out to be like that, then that's not a good thing. However, I know this is time sensitive, and I know that we need to pass it for those who might be considering retiring in December. But I won't support it like it is. I will say that. There's too many unknowns for me. I would, did you make a motion? Has there been a motion made to defer this to the study session? I'd like to make a motion that we defer this to a study session.
All right, I have a motion. Is there a second to that motion? Second by Mr. Duncan. If it's all right, we typically do not discuss motions to defer, but Mr. Daniels did have his light on prior to that. Mr. Daniels, do you have anything else?
Yeah, I've just got two quick questions. I agree with what everyone said, but and I've heard comments about, in the future, what if this happens? We don't know what's going to happen with federal government, et cetera. And the two questions I have for Dr. Phillips are: one, is it your intention that this proposal be just for the 2011-2012 calendar year, as it says? And is it your intention that as we move forward from year to year to year, we would have a similar proposal which we could discuss adjusting or editing in whichever way we felt needed?
Yeah, a couple of things. Obviously, we have no problem with discussing it at the study session. We'll try to bring back any data that's requested. I will remind you, you voted on this exact document for the last 2 years. Just thought that's interesting, make that point clear. So those gray areas and questions, it's probably a good thing we're thinking of them now, because there's a lot of people that are under this that's written exactly the same way. Just thought I'd clarify that for you. Every year, by my understanding, it should come up and it should be approved at this point in the year, and it can be changed or amended or modified completely in any form or fashion. That's certainly the board's prerogative, and I think when you look in the future, it's hard to look into that crystal ball, but we have budget and federal government, and maybe some of those questions that are in the gray that get clarified, that we say, well, we can't do that, or we didn't know we were doing that. We want to keep doing it, whatever the answer is, but it can be changed at any point. I think it just gives the employees an opportunity that are contemplating retirement to kind of understand what their situation is. That's why we brought it forward.
All right, we do have a motion to defer on the table. We typically do not discuss motions to defer. And so I think everyone that had their light on prior to that motion has spoken. So we'll go ahead and vote on that motion to defer to the study session. If anybody has any specific questions or information they would like to be included in what they present to us, just contact Dr. Phillips or Jeremy, and he can pass it along to staff and see if they can get that information for us. All right. We have a motion, a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? All right, we're going to show that's passed. Next item on our agenda is under new business, discussion of policy JBCCA assignment to schools. Board, you'll recall this is where we've made some revisions on the appeals committee for a student's assignment to schools, where we changed the committee to include the director of schools, and I don't remember who else it was, director of schools, the
Instruction and pupil services.
director of instruction, director of pupil services. All right, is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Ms. Cox. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Dunn. Any discussion?
This will return in first of the year, correct?
Yeah, we'll have to bring it back. Right now we're just dealing with out of zone, but Mr. Gregory, I know you have some consternation about athletics and out of zone and that sort of stuff, and so lots of questions to be answered, and so we'll bring it back where we can hopefully try to work through those. But I know you and I still need to sit down and talk through some of those.
All right, motion second. Any further discussion?
Exactly how did you state, Mr. Chairman, the change in this policy?
Mr. Wise, it's,
I'm reading it. but
yeah,
I'm
if you'll
trying-
scroll down, you'll see, scroll down, it's down toward the bottom. They've got a line drawn through where it previously said that an appeals committee was comprised of the chairman of the board, the vice chairman, director of schools, or his designee. It now reads, the appeals committee is comprised of the director of schools, the assistant director for instruction, and the assistant director for pupil services.
I apologize for that. I thought I heard you say also includes director of schools and so forth.
Yeah, no. All right, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Show that passed unanimously. Next item on our agenda is discussion and or action regarding policy GAL, salary deductions. Is there a motion? Motion by Mr. Brewer. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Silkwood. Any discussion? Mr. Gregory?
We are still honoring 403Bs and salary distribution.
Yeah, that all things controlled by the federal code under section 125 will be honored. Yes.
Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Well, shall that pass unanimously? Next item on our agenda is discussion and or action regarding policy GBE, assignment. Is there a motion? Motion by Mr. Duncan. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Cox. Is there any discussion?
This is
Dr. Phillips?
just for the board. This is moving, legally, the date has moved from May the 15th to June the 15th. You know, last year it was April 15th, and it based on state law, it's moved by code, right, Jim? It's moved to June 15th. So we just need to clarify that for this year.
Thank you, Dr. Phillips. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Shall that pass unanimously? Next, item D, discussion and or action regarding policy GBK, suspension and dismissal of personnel. Is there a motion? Motion by Mr. Wise. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Cox.
This is all state law, correct?
It is, Mr. Gregory. This is just changing, according to state law, really dealing more with suspension and dismissal at will. Is that correct, Jim? So it's just to comply with state law, changes in state law.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Well, shall that pass unanimously? Next, item E, discussion and or action regarding policy GBNA, dismissal of certified employees. I think this is the same thing, is it not, Dr. Phillips?
It is. It's just a change of legal language within Tennessee code, and Mr. Fuqua has just replaced it with the current code sections.
Motion by Ms. Cox, second by Mr. Wise. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Well, shall that pass unanimously? Next, item F, discussion and or action regarding policy GBNB, dismissal of non-tenured teachers. Is there a motion? Motion by Mr. Wise. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Silkwood. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Next, item G, discussion and or action regarding the library compliance report. Is there a motion? Motion by Mr. Duncan. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Gregory. Any discussion on this? Dr. Phillips?
I was just going to say, this is a yearly report. I'm sure you've seen it before. And we have the schools that are listed that are not in compliance based on the 12 books. And so it's just standard procedure for us to file this each year.
All right, thank you, Dr. Phillips. Mr. Gregory?
Two of these schools are new. This is their third year, and I know both schools have done about all they can possibly do on their own through fundraisers and et cetera to build the library. And we have added a little bit
Right.
compared, and it does bother me when I walk in some of these buildings, and we have very nice media centers with nothing on the shelf.
And Mr. Gregory makes a great point, Chairman Long, and you'll see that they are new schools, and even Station Camp Elementary, which Ms. Silkwood asked a question about prior to the board meeting, you know, they're right on that borderline of having compliance with the 12 per student. But we grow so much every year. If we don't buy more books each year in that scenario, then we could fall out of compliance. I think one thing that we do need to be aware of, and I know this is something that we'll probably all agree to very easily, if we're going to open a new campus, a completely new campus, we need to make sure that we allocate enough funding to open a library where they don't have to necessarily fundraise for children to have books to read. So,
Thank you, Dr.
I'm not throwing
We-
anybody under
We've
the bus
attempted that
previously,
novel
but
concept a time or two, we just hadn't been
I think
real
that'd be
successful
good.
at it.
So I applaud, I know I've been to two of these schools to speak specifically about the number of books they buy each year to try to get up to that number, and how long it takes, Mr. Gregory, maybe 5 or 6 years after it opens for us to raise enough funds to be able to do that. So, I know as we work through internally this year, we'll certainly be looking at this, and if there's any ways internally within the budget to try to help to get within compliance, I think that'd be a priority.
Dr. Phillips, you mentioned Station Camp Elementary. I assume you're referring to Station Camp High School on here, and that was just those extra 100+ students?
Both, actually.
Both?
Yeah,
Okay.
Station Camp High, and then Station Camp Elementary is actually in compliance, but they're so close that if they grow by a few students, it could be out of compliance. So they're kind of right on the bubble.
That's essentially what's happened with Station Camp High School this year. They had
Yes,
so many
sir.
new enrollees.
Yes, sir, where you
they
have
came
that,
out of compliance.
yes, sir, where you have that growth pattern, it does make a difference.
And I believe that same
Gregory.
thing has happened at, Portland Gateview, Elementary, because I know the librarian there has just gone almost 24/7, tried to build that number up, and did. And to be honest with you, some of the books, are not very costly. They were a lot of paperback books and so forth, but they did fulfill the need to, so that they would not be on this list. And, as we mentioned about the other schools here, if they get one more classroom of students, then and no more books, they'll be on this list.
Thank you, Mr. Gregory. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? So that passes unanimously. Next, item H, consideration of an amendment to the federal projects budget. Phillips,
Second.
have a motion by Mr. Wise, a second by Mr. Gregory.
This is an amendment that Mary Ann provided, and it's just amending for some travel out of, I think it's out of CTE. Yeah, out of Carl Perkins CTE.
All right, I have a motion, a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? We'll show that that passed unanimously. Next on our agenda is matters involving council, and Mr. Fuqua, I think we do need an executive session. All right, we'll stand adjourned, or in recess, I'm sorry. Wish we were adjourned. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting back to order. We'll wait on Mr. Fuqua here for a moment. All right, thank you. We've called the meeting back to order. Is there a motion of any kind?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the settlement offer for the Cardin lawsuit.
All right, I have a motion. Is there a second to that motion? Second by Ms. Silkwood. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you. Mr. Hale, do you have something?
I have a, motion for the board to appoint you as mediator for the current ACLU, lawsuit, in upcoming mediation talks.
Well, I hope what you meant was to serve as the board's representative at mediation, not
That's
to be the
exactly
actual
what I meant.
mediator. Okay. All right.
Well, let me rephrase that.
Yeah,
I think that is what I
wanna
meant.
get-
He said, I
do not want to be the mediator. All right, I have a motion that I serve as the board's representative during mediation and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? All right, next item on our agenda, comments from board members. Ms. Silkwood?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to congratulate the Hendersonville High golf team on their state championship 2 years in a row, so congratulations to them. And I would also like to remind everyone here that Hendersonville High School also has a Fall into Art show and sale coming up on October 21st, I believe, through the 23rd. The event is free, but all proceeds from the sale of the art will go toward funding technology there at Hendersonville High.
All right, thank you, Ms. Silkwood. Ms. Breed, have anything? Ms. Cox?
I just have two things really quick. Saturday is Beach Elementary's their country day, so please go out and help raise some money for Beach Elementary on Saturday. And then also, just to the board, remember that next month is TSBA convention, and we will need to, I know our chairman will talk about tonight, delegates. We do need delegate representation to that. We can have up to 7 members with our school size. So if you would like to be a part of that, you have to be available that Monday, the 14th. From 2:30 to 4:30 to be a representative for the delegate representation. What we will be discussing will be obviously legislative type things that will be important to us as school board members. Things like elected versus appointed. Superintendents, other things like physical authority, and other matters that will obviously be important to as a school board member. So if you would like to have some voice in those type of matters that you feel are important, please be a representative or tell Mr. Long, and we can put you down as a delegate for the convention.
All right, thank you, Ms. Cox. Ms. Dunn, you have anything? Nope. Mr. Hale? Mr. Daniels?
I had an opportunity to attend the Gallatin High School Children's Show a couple of weeks ago, and I just want to compliment the theater department there and all of the students that participated. It was a joy to see them on the stage I used to act on, so they're doing a great job, much better than I ever did, so congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Wise. No, Mr. Duncan?
Yes, I just say I wish you would. I know you've been following the news, what's been going on the last few days here in Sumner County with teenage young man. Not only that, but I guess all around the country, most of our violent crime now committed by young people, teenagers, and, just pray for those folks that something be done by our teenagers and the young people will turn around. Our generation is getting more violent, more violent, more violent, more violent. We're finding more violent in our schools and our homes and our communities. So I think that's one of the things we need to be concerned about. If we don't get a hold on it, then later on down the road, we're going to lose a whole generation of young people. What we realized, too, we had 3 babies that were born here in Sumner County already addicted to cocaine.
Mr. Gregory?
As Dr. Phillips said a few minutes ago, there are a lot of good things been going on in Sumner County. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to be involved in some of them, but what I have been in school, I don't believe I've ever seen schools operating any better. Schools being very positive and doing a great job. And also, I'd like to make comment that Portland had 2 championships last week before last week. Middle school championship in football, 8-0 record, Portland West Middle. Also, their volleyball team went undefeated in district play, went to the finals of the district, and unfortunately came on the short end there, but they're still moving on. And I'm telling you, they have a shot to go a long ways. They're good.
Thank you, Mr. Gregory. Mr. Brown? All right. Board, I only have one thing under board comments, or a couple of things, actually. This is the meeting where we typically, the board chair appoints committee members, and I have some good news and some bad news, I guess depending on how you look at it. The good news is I've worked with Dr. Phillips, and we have discussed our litany of committees, and he feels that staff can pick up a lot of the work that some of those committees were doing. And so it is, he and I have both agreed that we would like to recommend to abolish the following committees: the Collaboration Committee, the Compensation Committee, the Technology Committee, the Bylaws Committee, the Bus Advertising Committee, and he was particularly interested in this last one, the Director Search Committee. And so I will need a board vote to abolish those committees. Those responsibilities are going to be picked up by staff. They're working in most of these areas already and moving forward, and they obviously will bring whatever recommendations staff has to this board for final approval. So I'll need a motion to abolish.
Motion approved.
Motion by Mr. Gregory. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Hale. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? All right, and next are, I have passed out for your information, the committee members for the 2011-12 year. You can see we still are maintaining an athletic committee, a facilities and maintenance committee, the No Child Left Without committee, PTO committee, a private act committee, and I've added one. It's not really a committee per se, but I've asked Mr. Daniels to work with Ms. Dam on special education issues. She has a group of parents that are looking to form a parent advisory group to work with her, and Mr. Daniels will sit in whenever those issues come up, or if she has something of concern that needs to be presented to the board as it relates to special education. He will serve as the board liaison to those types of things, and he has agreed to do that. Really the only changes, there were no changes on No Child Left Without. The PTO committee still has Ms. Silkwood and Ms. Dunn. I know that Ms. Silkwood has had conversations with Dr. Phillips on repurposing that committee, if you will, and looking at accomplishing some additional items. So as of now, the only two I've got on there are Ms. Silkwood and Ms. Dunn, and then we will add other members to that committee once that has come up. On the Facilities and Maintenance Committee, we have added an additional county commissioner, Mike Guthrie. He is replacing one of our citizen members that previously served on that. And then on the Athletic Committee, as the board knows, we revised the policy to open that, the school representatives up to not just principals, but assistant principals and athletic directors. And as such, have 3 females and 1 male off of the high school and middle schools. And then Mr. Holloman will continue as the staff liaison, and Mr. Gregory and I will serve on that. So those are the appointments. Ms. Silkwood, do you have?
Yes, I did. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With the vision that Dr. Phillips and I have for the PTO committee, really is to incorporate more parental involvement rather than just PTOs. So with that, I'd like to make a motion to change the name of the PTO committee to Parental Involvement Committee.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Cox. You were louder, she was closer. second by Ms. Cox. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? We have changed the name of that committee. And did I see someone else's like, Mr. Wise?
You did. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Speaking of committees, and I don't see on our agenda, are we having a study session next month? I don't see on the agenda, study session items.
Well, it got inadvertently deleted.
Okay.
We will not be having a study session in December, though, so that's probably a good time to mention that.
Yeah, and that was part of what I was gonna mention. But next month, during our regular voting session, speaking of the No Child Left Without Committee, I don't know how many even board members know it, but we use the old gymnasium over here as a store, clothes and so forth. I'd like for the board and any visitors to tour that facility just prior or in the beginning of next month's regular session of our board. And Mr. Johnson, if you'll advise Mr. Hoy of that fact, I think he wants to do a little decorating and arranging and that sort of thing. But I felt like those comments needed to come in the discussion of committees, and that not because of me, but because of the others on the committee. That is really a wonderful, wonderful work that's being done, and it is much needed work. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wise. Anyone else? All right, I'll tell you what, let's go ahead. Are there any other study session items that anyone had? We've got the retirement issue on there. Is there anything else anyone wishes to add at this time? If not, as always, you can send anything you would like included on that agenda to Mr. Johnson. All right, seeing no one else, last item on our agenda is comments from the director, Dr. Phillips.
Thank you, Mr. Long. Just a couple of things to make sure the board is aware of. First, the bids were approved last evening at the County Commission for the Station Camp High School addition and the Rucker Stewart roofing project. So I know I spoke with Tim today and David Loing and David Brown with our architecture firm. So it will be moving along fairly quickly. I think the Station Camp High School contractors are wanting to get mobilized and start fairly soon. So I think they've been pretty expedient about getting their bonds and those types of things. So contracts will be signed soon. We will have some type of groundbreaking ceremony down at Station Camp for the addition. We'll let you know, obviously, when we're planning that. So hopefully most of you can attend if possible for that event. I do want to thank the commission. I went through education, the budget, and then the full commission, as I mentioned last evening, and they approved it unanimously all the way through. So I was thankful of that. And if you remember, the bids were much lower than what our original estimate happened to be, and so that was a good thing as well. We have tried to reach out and certainly listen to teachers that have had concerns about the evaluation system. And we've sent out some communication and have received some good feedback from teachers. I've been out and talked to several in the last couple of days. And one of the things we wanted teachers to realize and understand is that we are listening. We are moving questions up the chain of command to all the way to Commissioner Huffman. I've had a couple of conversations with him, and so I know that he gets to talk to a lot of directors across the state. We asked through Representative Maggart if we could have Commissioner Huffman here in our district to answer some questions possibly that teachers have in regard to the teacher evaluation system. And he has been kind enough to tell us that he will do that. I think this is the first one that he's done in this format across the state. So I think that's a good sign for us that we are communicating, and he's going to come here first, October the 25th. October 25th, which is next Tuesday at Station Camp High Auditorium. In our communication to staff, we asked teachers to reply with questions for Commissioner Huffman to sumneredquestions@gmail.com, and then we'll go through and sort those so we don't have redundant questions. He'll probably do some introductory remarks, and then he will go through questions and answer them for staff that are there. So we hope it's well attended by our internal staff, and certainly invite you to come down and either meet Commissioner Huffman or listen to him as he talks through the evaluation system. The 23rd, next week is the 23rd Annual Drug Awareness Week. I think I got that correct. I think it's more commonly known as Red Ribbon. And so I'll be out judging schools. We have, I think, 20 schools participating in the Red Ribbon activities, and so I'll be out doing that next week. We had the Private Act meeting that I thought we had a great article written about, and I thought we had a very productive meeting. We have others already scheduled, and we're working through trying to formulate something that's beneficial for the school system and also County General, so we can all benefit from what's happening and the work happening with that committee. Listen and Learn every Thursday. I go out and have internal staff first, and then community. Several board members have been to those already, and so it's been a great experience for me. And we are going to be at Station Camp Middle School Thursday, and so if you have a chance, come down. We've also had a number of parents and others that have responded online, and you can do that through our website and fill out the questions. We want to make sure parents are aware of that. Another thing that's on the horizon with Pat Connor, Tennessee was one of 11 states in the country that was awarded a federal Safe and Supportive Schools grant called the S3 grant. We were one of 20 districts in Tennessee that applied for that, and we were selected. We're going to ask all 7 of our high schools to participate, and it deals with school climate and trying to attach school climate survey data, how students are telling us they feel while they're at school, and attach that anonymously to test scores and achievement. So I think it's a good thing. It's a really good thing. I think it shows that we are always looking for opportunities to verify that we have safe schools, that students enjoy being at school, but it also gives us an opportunity to make sure that we look at the data in case we do have problem areas, we can address those. So I think it's a great thing, and we're looking forward to implementing that. So just a few things that we're doing. Just wanted you to know.
Thanks, Dr. Phillips. Board, we do have one more item of business we do need to take care of. We also need to elect our TLN representative for the Tennessee Legislative Network. That is something Ms. Cox has done for us for the last 2 or 3 years. But that is something that is voted on, not appointed, so I would need a motion. A motion by Mr. Wise. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Silkwood. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? We'll show that passed unanimously. And then also, she mentioned delegates. We're entitled to 7.
We're entitled to 7, and they would, you need to be at the convention on the 14th of November from 2:30 to 4:30 is when the delegate assembly is at the convention. So if you all want to check your calendars and they need to get, those packets will be going out very soon, like they really kind of need to know today. So, I mean, let us know ASAP on that.
If you would, board members, if you would check your calendars for those dates. Mr. Johnson, if you will, send a reminder email out with the date and time. And board, if you would, as quickly as possible, respond back to him so we can get our list of our delegates back to TSBA. All right. That concludes everything on our agenda. So we stand adjourned.